hello. I am Ebony Williams.
And I am Vern Cooper. And we are. What are we? Oh, God.
What do you mean?
Nothing.
Like,
All right.
what do you mean? Who are we?
I lost my train of thought, but it's
Oh.
because this software, something popped up on the screen, and I was like, you're doing what? We interrupt this program because we have microphones,
Yes,
and you
we
don't.
have microphones
Hmm.
and this really nice software.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, actually, we're jury's out, but you can sponsor us if you want to, Riverside.
Hey,
This episode brought to you by NyQuil and allergy meds today.
look, you're drinking some Waterloo too.
That's gonna be our thumbnail.
All right.
Oh gosh. Well, Ebony, I haven't seen you in a very long time, and I'm so
I
happy to be
know.
back.
Yes, me too. I'm happy. So I've started watching The Last of Us for like the 50 millionth time. And I notice that I watch things a lot differently. And though I have watched the show like literally a million times, I am seeing things differently. Like I don't know, and I was wondering, I don't know if I grew. I don't know if my perspective changed, but it's just really interesting to me that I see it differently.
Well, and if I guess maybe we should mention that this is kind of a volume two to our first stab at podcasting when we both just kind of went nuts over the show The Last of Us.
Yeah, and I tell my students this all the time. Once you know, you don't unknow. Like once you
Yeah.
see, you can't unsee. And the skills, like just briefly, the skills that I learned watching TV with you, I'm like noticing things. Oh, there's a gun in the first scene. That's gonna come up again.
Oh, I'm so sad
Oh,
that I can't make Chekhov's jokes to anybody but you. Um, I was watching a movie and there was like a pregnant woman or something, and I was like, "Look, it's Chekhov's fetus," and I was like, Ebony would have laughed at that.
I'm laughing now. I'm laughing now. Oh, and then also, so I go back and I watch shows over again. So like Elementary is one that I love, Supernatural, and like I've seen those shows a million times, and I notice things
Hmm.
like like there's this particular episode of Elementary when you find out that the killer left something in the bathroom, and before we know that, there's a scene of the two investigators in the bathroom. And I was like,
Oh,
they're showing us.
yeah.
They're showing us before we know. So, yeah. So,
I and we've used the word notice several times now, and that reminds me of something I was thinking about. Is that noticing is a very it is it needs to be honed, right? I have friends who are not noticers, and they drive me crazy sometimes with the stuff that gets by them, and I'm like, no, 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 you just have to pay closer attention. But it's not fair to be frustrated with somebody who hasn't sat down and honed that skill. And I think one of the ways that we hone that skill is through what we're going to be talking about, which is reading texts in an involved and proactive way. Lots of social theorists have talked about this, and we mentioned this when we were talking about The Last of Us. Like, so much of our time is spent engaging with media. I'm not one of those like the sky is falling kind of like technological determinist people, but it is a little bit. You're kind of letting some time that you could be using really productively just go by if you're not actively engaging with media and more passively engaging.
yeah, I definitely feel that. And, as I was reflecting, getting ready for today, like I thought about how I have passively been looking at TV.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it's needed. That's why we do it, to unwind, to disassociate, right? Like that's why we watch TV. So I don't know. It's
That is the caution of
yeah.
television no longer. It is possible for television to no longer be that like unplugged moment of like I'm gonna kick my feet up and watch. Now that doesn't last forever. I have circled back around again to I only want to watch trash. I'm very passionate about trash, and I think that being able to enjoy bad things, find something of value in bad things, is more valorous than that. Like those folks are like, well, I only watch, who's like some like, film bro guy like Jean-Luc Godard or the French
Scorsese.
I only watch those kinds of things. It's like that's cool. I mean, those things there's wonderful value in very well executed media. I think that there is more value in being such a good consumer of media, such a savvy consumer of media, that you find gold hidden in trash.
Wait a minute. We interrupt this program because we find gold hidden in trash. That's the tagline.
Yeah. If you can't do that, if you can't sit with me and watch Space Truckers and enjoy it and get something out of it, then I don't want to watch Schindler's List with you. I don't. I don't know. That's makes me just as pretentious. By the way, that does not make me
right.
I'm not winning any points.
Right.
So, other than rewatching The Last of Us, what have you been watching?
Basketball. So we talk about like being able to like disconnect. Like basketball for me is like magic. Like it's drama, it's things that you never expected can happen can happen. So I've been watching a lot of basketball, and then just going back and watching my comfort shows. But I've also been watching Will Trent. I love Will Trent. So types of shows I like crime dramas.
Yeah.
And so Will Trent is one. It reminds me a lot of Monk. Like it's kind of Monk like.
I haven't heard of that one, but I love procedurals.
Yeah. So Will Trent is I think he's dyslexic, but he's this phenomenal detective. So he has like learned different skills to be able to do his work.
Yeah.
But then also like reading things, all of these, different things like that. He's developed skills, but then sometimes you see him kind of struggle with, processing material and different things like that. So it's a really great show. I enjoy it.
Did you know I'm dyslexic?
I didn't know.
Yeah. I have. I was not diagnosed with this because I went to school in an extremely poor district. But audio processing disorder and dyslexia, and school was a nightmare for me. And I felt so stupid so often, For a long time there, folks with like intellectual disabilities or disability representation in general has always been fraught. Were perceived as folks who overcame or were successful despite a hindrance or a handicap. We've come back around, I think, now to portraying those kinds of things as just ways to succeed differently. I never heard of that, but that's cool.
Yeah. And then also, like, thinking about strategies, like how folks with, and I'm thinking like a particular disadvantage, like how we may do different things to kind of overcompensate, to compensate for whatever it is that that we feel is lacking.
Yeah, and we do those things. I think the more perhaps like more adept at adapting.
Yeah.
I want that on a t-shirt. I'm adept at adapting. A person is, the more likely they are to fly under the radar. So nobody knew that I wasn't able to hear very well because I became so good at reading lips and body language that I didn't learn that I couldn't hear until the pandemic when everybody started wearing face masks. And I was like, what did you say? Speak up. And they're like, I'm speaking up. And I was like, okay. And so sometimes there's an absence that appears that shows us what we were relying on or that we were relying on it. There's actually a social concept for noticing something through its absence called absent presence.
I think we talked about that.
Yeah, we did with grief. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Right.
We did.
So you've been watching Will Trent?
Will Trent. I think you would like it.
I'm sure.
Also, Will Trent grew up in foster care, so like it's also that dynamic as well. Like he built a relationship that continues through his adulthood. Yeah, and the first season was really kind of establishing who he is, his background, and now we're kind of exploring it more. Like we've learned some things about his parents. It's just really interesting. I like it. What are you watching?
Well, I also I wouldn't call it sports, but I've gotten into competitive reality television, and I always like competitive reality television. I always have. I'm not ashamed of it. It's just there are certain categories and or production styles I prefer. Like I could not get into Survivor and the really cutthroat ones where they're rewarded for bad behavior. But I have always been a fan of British reality competition television, like Great British Bake Off, or like the ones that didn't make it to America in particular, like Sewing Bee or Strictly Come Dancing. They have knockoff versions in America. Dancing with the Stars is a knockoff version of Strictly Come Dancing. So I watch Strictly every year. I have done since like 2016, I think. But I noticed that there has been an influence of that style of reality competition television on American. And I think a lot of it's to do with RuPaul, with internationalization of RuPaul's Drag Race. Because, there's a Drag Race Canada, there's a Drag Race Down Under, there's a Drag Race UK. And America's RuPaul's Drag Race changed very suddenly. And some of the old guard are not happy about it. See Bianca Del Rio complaining about how we have to get to know the contestants now. But anyway, so I've gone on a bender of RuPaul's Drag Race because I had left it behind. I went back to season 14 of RuPaul's Drag Race and watched that and got caught up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I have not watched. So what season are they on now?
16.
16. Okay. So I think the season with Willow Pill was the last one that I've watched.
That was the one where I think that like you can start to track that change or that shift in the show. They took out Untucked, for instance, and made Untucked its own separate show. It used to be a piece in the main show, and it was not my thing. I didn't like watching them sit there and try to tear each other down. And I know that's what the straights are there for. Full tea, full shade. The straights are there to watch us try to tear ourselves down.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't need this. This isn't for me. And so RuPaul's Drag Race, I think for a long time, was queer television for straight people. And it just lost interest for me. But also, I've been trying to get back into films. I watched one that made me think of you. Because of like a lot of the talking we did last season when we were doing Last of Us about like family dynamics, learning stuff, and especially scaffolding. Have you seen the Iron Claw?
No, what is that about?
Oh my gosh. So I'm not going to say loosely based on a true story because it is pretty close to the truth, but it's about this like wrestling dynasty, you know, like professional wrestling of the Von Erichsons, and it's a father, and he raised all of his sons to be professional wrestlers. And I don't even know if I want to describe the vibe of it because it's so central to what it's doing, because it is asking and answering questions about masculinity, about like what it's like to be a member of a peer group as a man, just a cis straight white man, and it's problematizing it without demonizing, and because it's like, it's how we help them, you know. We're going to great lengths to show them themselves, to show them what we see, what we're scared of, what we perceive to be as at the root of a lot of their evil. And the reason we care is because their evil seeps out into the rest of the world. Right? Like their evil becomes our evil.
And when you say they, you're talking about cis straight white men.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, and what I think, and I know this now, having transitioned into a man, you know, I passed for, I passed for cis. I don't know if I passed for straight. And I'm not worried about it. I don't care. But like being part of that culture, what it's time for us to recognize, those of us who have these expectations of them to do better, is that they aren't taught any other way. Where are they going to learn? So, what about media? And so this film is reparative, it's instructive, and it's for those cis straight white men who are a part of that culture. And so I was like, holy shit, this is new. This is groundbreaking. So I would love to discuss that movie with you if you're interested. It is very sad. It's hard. It's a difficult thing to engage with. Okay. A really sad story. But it's so good. It's not sad for sadness' sake, which so many of these stories are. It's
okay.
Yeah. At first I was like, I saw a wrestling movie. I was like, ooh, this is going to be fun. And then I heard it was about the Von Erichsons, and I was like, oh, God. Because I knew about them. They were a thing when I was a kid.
Yeah. I don't think I knew about the Von Erichsons. So there was a time in my life that I was really into wrestling.
You're going to love this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? So, and I remember, so I did hear something about it because I remember looking, because I don't know the Von Erichsons, but, you know, I was familiar with Ric Flair.
Ric Flair's in it.
Oh, really?
Because he wrestled one of them.
Oh, yeah. Barry Windham was my favorite. Yeah. Sting is still wrestling.
Yeah, he is. I need him to put some more clothes on, but yeah, he's still wrestling.
Why does he need more clothes on?
He's just looking a little rough. Wrestling is in on the joke. You know, wrestling is drag. It's in on the joke. It knows.
It's camp. Yeah.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too, is like camp is interruption.
Yeah.
All this speaking that we've been doing about what we like to watch, you and I both, I think that this is a great project for us because we love interruption. We love camp. Sometimes even playing it so straight, camp so straight that it is almost straight. We don't like you didn't care for Saltburn, right? Because that was camp straight down the barrel until it almost became straight.
What did I think about Saltburn? It wasn't that I didn't like Saltburn. We have had this conversation about how I am so analytical. And a movie like Saltburn, I can't turn it off. So I was just thinking about
you were haunted
how,
by it.
right. So Ali then for me is like become, and I don't know this. Like I haven't read anything, I hadn't watched anything about it, but for me, like Oliver, right? Ali represents how systems can destroy us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right? No, you're absolutely right. That's what the movie's about.
yeah.
It's hard to watch.
It's so hard to watch.
Yeah.
It's so hard to watch, right? Yeah.
And that's a film that becomes richer as a text when you find out who made it, because Emerald Fennell is from that system. She is descended from, she's from that very privileged aristocracy in England and stuff. And so it's like sometimes you, if the work of reading the text extends beyond the page, I don't want it. I don't want to do homework. I think it could be a case of like, that movie wasn't for us. That movie was for them to speak, to show. She was showing themselves to themselves.
Yeah.
But
and it's just so much about that movie. Maybe I do need to like read something, but just the parallel, I mean, I don't know if I'm using the correct terms, but like that particular scene where Oliver is consuming the woman on her cycle, and then to the scene in the bathtub, just the what's the word, the parallel of like the blood, like,
yeah.
It's and also so much.
And that film is really, really dependent on a visual language, like a fluency with visual language in film, and that's another thing that has to be developed. And so in a way, that's a film that's one of those like egghead film buff things. It's like, it's a little bit inaccessible. Not saying that you can't like it. I'm just saying decoding that visual language is a little inaccessible to folks who haven't been shown it before. Yeah. So, in that scene in particular, that is how, it was blood. It was rape and murder, basically, that the aristocracy gained what they had. That's what privilege is. Privilege isn't, be it inherited, yeah, but it is also stolen. It's also a fundamentally British film. Right? So when you add those two things together, it's like, oh, okay, I get what this is, or whatever. And so then it became a little more fun to watch as a metaphor or an allegory for them.
Allegory, yeah.
But yeah, I'm not going to fight anybody who tells me that they don't have any interest in rewatching that film, because I totally get it. I loved it. I love visual language.
Yeah. I think for me it's the deception. And not only that, I feel deceived. Like, Ollie deceived me.
You were deceived, yeah.
Right. And that's what privilege does. Everyone is deceived,
and
right?
that scene, and it's also like raises the question of the value of reparations, which is uncomfortable, right? Because Ollie, did Felix deserve what Ollie did to him? Not really. But Felix inherited things that were got through means that were, or should have been criminal. They perhaps weren't, but they should have been criminal, right? Or they were at least ethically wrong. And so was Ollie really wrong to seek this out through the exact same means? They just happen to be... It's so messy and disgusting, and I love it. And that's one of the reasons why I like it, is because we can examine it in a non-U.S. context.
It's so interesting that we're talking about this. So first of all, look, we're talking about this movie, and we like become eggheads. We can't help it. We just. But so I was thinking the other day, and I know that this is often taken out of context, but the Audre Lorde saying you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools.
I had that literal thought. I think we.
But Ollie did it. Yeah. Ollie did it.
Well, and here's my thing with that. I think about that. The reason I think about that phrase so often is because she was wrong.
I've been thinking that too. I've been thinking
I'm
that
like,
too.
I do understand what she was saying, and if you
Yeah.
keep reading that quote out of context is incorrect. But if you keep
Yeah.
reading what she was using that to discuss the metaphor of systems.
Yeah.
But you can't tear the master's house down with nothing but the master's sword.
You can't. Oh, we are getting into it. We are getting into it.
But
It's so true.
because what am I going to do, right? Like,
I'm a love a system down.
exactly,
Like,
right? And so that is oppression. That's internalized oppression. I'm not speaking for Miss Lord on this. I am simply referring to any of the situations or systems of oppression that I interact with. I cannot walk into straight spaces without straight privilege and make that space comfortable or even amenable to myself. Because the first thing that comes back at me is, well, I love and accept you anyway. It's like, that's not what we were talking about. I was talking about a very real possibility that if I try to get a mortgage, the credit bureau is going to think I'm trying to steal somebody's identity. I don't care what you think. I'm trying to prepare you for something that's probably going to happen. What are you, the person with the power here, going to do when this happens? You can't just show up and be happy and do our dance and go on. That's not what does it.
right. So, okay. I have not seen this, but the Society of Magical Negroes.
Yeah. I haven't
Have you
seen it
seen
either.
it?
No, I haven't seen it. I want to so bad.
Well, maybe we should watch it. Oh, okay, so I don't know a lot about it. I know that there's been like an uproar. I mean, prior to it coming out, like people saying, why would we make this? Why would we need to make a movie about a magical Negro? Like this whole
Because
trope.
we never have. We
Right.
have never looked closely at this trope and what it's doing, and it is
Yeah.
so prevalent. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the trailer, God, it was so good.
Yeah, I was on a group text with some friends of mine, and we were just talking about how movies that we had grown up loving, once you know about the magical Negro trope, you start to re-examine, question. Like, I loved Ghost. I loved it. But Whoopi was the magical Negro.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and I agree. I grew up being a big Stephen King fan. Stephen King taught me to read. You know, I had access to those books because it's what my mom read, and we didn't have kids' books, and I was the oldest, and so it's like, But Stephen King has a magical Negro in every book, every story, and at first I was like, all right, well, I got to sit with this because really it's in here, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
those books were foundational to me. I can't stop. I can't undo that. I can't go, and if I could, I wouldn't. So I got to figure this out, and so I did a lot. I spent a lot of time thinking about the trope and where else I've seen it, and it's everywhere.
it's everywhere.
Did you read The Stand or watch any of the?
It's been years since I watched The Stand. But you know what I think about is one of my favorite movies now is Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
I love Dr. Sleep. Yeah, so just thinking about what is that guy's name? The guy in the movie.
Is it the same one from The Shining?
It is the same one from The Shining.
I don't know his name either.
Oh, anyway, just thinking about like what you said, what he teaches Danny, and then but also maybe we may need to talk about this a
I
little
would
bit.
love to have a conversation about the trope and then the film and then see what we think the film
Yeah.
did, because I understand the complexity and the problematization of the trope. It can't, but also I just have to point out that just because something is a trope doesn't mean it's automatically bad. And so it what it means is that it exists, basically, and it can
Right.
be used either. I don't know. So I don't know. I would love to see what they do with this film and what they use it to talk about in society today.
Have you seen Dr. Sleep?
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to say that I wonder if the character Abra, she is a woman of color.
Mm-hmm.
And she lives in her power. Like, just how strong and I don't mean it's like strong black woman, because we know that there's limitations around
That's
that
also a trope.
right. We know that, and there's limitations around that, and consequences for mental health and health in general. But I just think one of the things that I love about that movie is the thing that Danny ran from when he was a child. Abra walks into it. Like, she knows who she is at a young age. She knows her power. She knows what she's capable of. So that's the thing I love about Abra and that whole story. So for me, it kind of comes full circle. Like, Danny was mentored by a person of color. He mentors a person of color. I don't know.
I think that there's something in that for sure.
Yeah,
What's important about knowledge is that it empowers us.
Yeah.
And what's important about empowerment is what we do once we have that increased power. It's more than simply... There was a time when the word problematic was so... Everybody thought they were doing something if they found something that was problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not what theorists meant by that word.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of the conversation. Well, that's problematic. Oh, good. Okay, well, let's get going then. X plus what? Because you don't pass a math exam by going, I found the problem.
Right.
It's right there.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting. So I am teaching a graduate class this semester, and we're working with a community leader to kind of create a database of resources for families in the Baton Rouge community. And one of the things she said is, the way I think about this is, what are we solving for? Mm-hmm. So just because you see something as problematic, what is the X?
Congratulations.
Right. What are you solving for?
One of the favorite things I ever heard someone say in a training. I was in a training when I was at SIU Carbondale, and this woman, I'm talking about impressive, black women just standing in their power and stuff. She was standing in front of a room of white folks talking about racism and stuff like that. And she said, I want to caution you against admiring the problem. And I was like, I had never heard, and it was lost on the rest of the room because she was too smart for them, right? She was way ahead of the rest of them. But I was blown away by just how precise that classification of what happens when we rest on the laurels of going, well, that's problematic. If somebody says that's problematic, if they don't follow it up with something else, if they're done talking, I'm done listening.
Right. And thinking about media, there's so much that's problematic. Yeah. I was watching, it wasn't Weird Science, it was Real Geniuses. As a kid, I loved that movie.
You talking about the Val Kilmer one?
The Val Kilmer one.
Yeah, Real Genius. Yeah. I loved that movie too as a kid. I loved it.
But if you go back and watch it now, there's some things that are problematic.
Yeah. The stereotypes.
Right. Or and the kid, I think, who was 15, Mitch. Dating someone, Mitch, who's
19.
Yeah,
it's in the script. She's 19.
Clearly older,
Yeah.
So, just thinking about things like that. When we know better, we do better. And I don't know. I just think that there are a lot of things that we are starting to see differently. So,
well, it's about time, And unfortunately, and to go back to the trope of, or any of these tropes, right? we have to be taught.
We have to be taught.
You know, and if we're trying to hold up these critiques or problematizations of things like systems, you know, system of white supremacy or white male or white cis or whatever. I'm not going to excuse them for feeling attacked because that's just with small dick energy, but for being confused, I would understand if they were confused because some of them do think they're doing their best, and so it's time for us to highlight media and to utilize media because that's what it is. It's a tool.
It is a tool.
So, what do you feel like watching to discuss for our very first?
What should we watch?
So we talked about Dr. Sleep. We talked about Iron Claw. We talked about going to see... Oh, did you see Barbie?
I did not see Barbie.
You should watch that.
I know.
It's really good.
I know. I didn't watch Oppenheimer.
I don't intend to.
Okay.
Talk about bro movies. That's fine. I know enough about Oppenheimer. That's cool. No, Barbie was really fun because it is almost talking about like an instructive piece. It is, it's a good primer on how to talk or think about gender differently. And how to talk and think about the patriarchy differently. And so, you know, that would be a fun one too.
Let's see. I didn't see Barbie. I saw The Color Purple.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
You know, another one that I'm interested in, Origin.
I don't know that one. Origin?
I know a little bit about it. It's a biopic about a journalist, and I think she wrote a piece about Trayvon Martin.
Oh.
I don't know a lot about the story, but I saw the trailer and I just thought, I would be interested in seeing this.
Let's pick something that's out. That way I can watch it without having to infect a movie theater.
Okay.
So I've got access to Dr. Sleep, Barbie, Iron Claw. Do you want to just do Barbie or Iron Claw?
Let's do Barbie and Iron Claw.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good idea because one is about masculinity. Well, they're both about both. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
but one
yeah.
focuses more on the lens of masculinity, and one focuses on. Yeah. Okay. I'm cool with that. I'm excited. I'm really glad to be working on this again. I'm glad that we learned everything that we did from The Last of Us. I can't wait for that second season to come out so we can do a full run of that.
I know, we gotta do live. Like, we gotta. Oh, speaking of live, I love Leslie. What is her last name?
Leslie Jones.
Leslie Jones. Yeah. Love her. She, as she's watching things on HBO, she takes video, gives her comments.
Her TikTok is immaculate.
Oh, really? I need to follow her on TikTok. I just follow her on Instagram. But she was talking about True Detective.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what's it called?
Something country. Wild
country, yeah. Google is our friend. Hold on.
Google is our friend.
Let's see.
Oh, no. You're not going to believe what just happened.
What happened?
Oh, God, it touched me. I think he's chasing a mouse around.
Oh, no.
Is this the same one from last night? Because you better kill it.
That's the thing about owning a home.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see. Detective.
Ugh, that's barefoot and everything. Claw.
Night Country.
Night Country. Okay. Yeah, we could do that too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's start with Barbie and Iron Claw.
Okay.
And we'll do some films, and then we'll go from there Just see where the wind takes us. Honestly, there are so many texts out there. We could do this for the rest of our lives.
We probably could.
I would love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about
Okay.
this, dear listener and viewer? Join us next time when we interrupt the programs, Barbie and the Iron Claw.
And the Iron Claw.